Hi, Planting Science teachers and liaisons. In this video, we're going to walk through the process of setting up student projects and adding students and mentors to the platform. This needs to be done before the students can log into the platform and should be taken care of as soon as possible once the group page is available to both of you. To start, you'll go to the projects page. So here we are at our group page. We're going to come down here and we're going to click on projects. Now, as you can see here, we already have 3 projects created, so we're going to add some. The process is exactly the same. So we're going to go all the way over here to the far right and click on Add Project, which brings us to this screen. So I already have 3, and for the sake of argument, we're going to assume I need 4 total. So I'm just going to add 1 more. However, if you were just starting out and you didn't have any projects you left, I would put in 4 for the total number that I needed. So I'm going to put in 1 just to add 1 more. Now, when I click add, the project does not actually exist yet. This is just drafting the project before it can actually be created. Most of these fields are going to be automatically filled in with members of the group. So your teacher will be in the teacher role, the staff will be in the admin role, the liaison will be in the liaison role. The team member, though, could be the mentor. Now, if you've already recruited a mentor, then you would use this. But if you have not recruited mentors, that's fine. In fact, that's more typical. You can just leave that the way it is. And you can do that for all of them. And then once it's set up the way you want it, you're going to click create to actually create the project. So I'm going to do that. And voila, we now have 4 projects. So as you can see, the projects are all going to be listed here. I'm going to go to this one here and just show you kind of what the project page looks like. Um, First of all, notice that the title at the top is a link that will always bring you back to the project overview page. Right underneath it, at least for the liaison, the mentor, teacher, there is this group link here that will take you back to the group page. So that's important to keep in mind. This panel here will show the teacher, the school, and the investigation theme that they're doing, as well as the session and on and on. So you want to make sure that all that's correct. But down here, again, it's the same setup that we have with the groups and the member dashboard. We have kind of a big info pane, and then we have the menu here to the left. The info pane has these different fields that can be updated by students and mentors. And down here at the bottom, this is where the actual update feed happens. So this is where conversations are happening between the students and their mentor. Every time a student enters a message and hits share with team, it will appear at the top of the list below. So the messages will end up in reverse order. But like I said, the students will post here, this mentor will log in later and post a response, and they'll go back and forth here. So all of the conversation will take place in this space here. To edit these fields, they're going to come over here to the info tab. So we're going to click on the info button here in the menu. And then from here, we're going to click up edit project, which is all the way over here. Now, students, unlike the group, students are actually encouraged to change the title. They cannot change this. Like I can highlight it, but I can't actually type anything. But if students want to change their title to something creative, they are welcome to do that. Obviously, assuming that it is school appropriate. So a lot of teachers do encourage their students to do that. It gives them sort of a feeling of ownership, and plus they usually come up with some clever ideas for titles. And then below here are each of those fields that were on the info page that represent parts of the scientific investigation process. So here in the Explorer, they're going to talk about the kinds of information that they uncovered in research. The research question was where they'll define what exactly it is they've decided to investigate. Predictions are where they outline their hypotheses. And then, of course, the experimental design is where they lay out what their plan is. And for each one of these, there are some prompting questions that help them understand what should go in those spaces. And then finally, down here at the bottom, they can change out their image to something creative as well. Again, assuming that it's school appropriate, they would click choose file, upload it, and then they're good to go. Any change that they make, of course, they would want to click save changes. You may want to warn them about this because, of course, students hate to do a lot of writing and then back out only to realize that they forgot to save. So that's really frustrating. But students have access to this page, as do mentors and everyone else. So that way they can be taking ownership of making sure that those fields are updated. Whatever they put there will appear in these blue fields here at the top. The only one they will not be able to edit is this about this project. That is an admin only field. You can tell them to just ignore it for now. It's not really important that they know that they put anything in there. So that's the info. The team is important primarily for adding mentors. I want to make that very clear because there was a time in the past that we added students here and we don't do that anymore. So there's some artifacts there that can be confusing. When you click on team, you will see everyone that's currently in the team list. Notice the liaison, the teacher, and the planting science staff are automatically loaded in, but we have a role that designates who is doing what. So when we want to add a mentor to the team, we want to come over here to edit the team. And that brings us to this page. So again, we can see everybody down here, but we can also see this thing at the top that says select members from group. So if you click on that, it's going to give you a list of every member from the group that is not currently in the group. It is not going to tell you on this screen, however, if the mentor that you're selecting has already been added to another team. So you're going to have to kind of keep careful track of who's been added to a team and who hasn't. In this case, I know that Amazing Mentor has not, so I'm going to check that box and I'm going to save that selection. You do want to double check when you do that, though. Often, when a new person is added, it will automatically add them as a student. You want to make sure with your mentor that you correct that because it won't count their mentor messages in the project activity report if they're not set to the correct role. Notice that I can click on the role and change it for anybody. So I'm going to click on my mentor. I'm going to select mentor, make sure that they're set that way, and I'm going to click save. And there we go. So you should have an administrator, a teacher, a mentor, and a liaison. And this is, again, assuming we don't have any students yet. Students will appear in this list, but they will not show up with a group designation. They're only part of the project. All right, so that is how you add a mentor to a group project page that's already been created. One key thing is that this box, please just ignore this box. This box does not help you. Again, this is an artifact from an earlier time and it's only confusing. So please don't use this box. We've asked UpZero to hide it and they just haven't done that yet. So once again, I'm going to click on this title to go back out to the page of the project team page. The last part here, of course, is the files. And this is where students can upload images or documents or other aspects of their project that they want to share with their mentor. The key thing about this is that they need to make sure that there are no last names visible on anything that they upload. That's just for safety reasons and for COPPA and FERPA compliance. But in addition, really encourage them to use this instead of pasting Google Drive links into their update feed. For so many students now, using Google Drive and using those Google Drive links is just instinctive, and we totally get that. However, whenever somebody accesses those files, they can click on the document information and they can see the student's full name. So we really ask them not to do that, and it's important to remind them repeatedly not to use Google Drive links in their update feed. Instead, upload the document or the photo or whatever to here. And that's much better. So that is our project page. And now we're going to add students. Okay, now believe it or not, we do not add students on the project page. We have to go out to the group page again. So here we are back at the main group page. We're going to click on projects, but this time we're going to go to the student tab. So here's our 4 projects that we've created. And we're going to click on students. I noticed that so far I don't have any students uploaded. So there's a couple of ways to add students. One way is sort of by hand, and the other is to upload a CSV file. If you have only like 10 students to add, adding them by hand is fine. Just be aware that Chrome likes to do this where it wants to add in usernames and passwords because it likes to try to be helpful, but of course that's not helpful. So you can type in, the first name of the student, a password for the student, and then select which of the 4 projects you want them to be in right here. So again, and then you would just continue to add as many students as you need to and just add it all in there. I, largely because I am reliant on Chrome, find this annoying because it keeps trying to load in usernames and passwords that I have saved for whatever reason. So the template way, you importing it by a CSV is a great way to go if you have lots of students to add. Now, if you don't have a template for this, you can click here and it'll download one for you. But basically, it's very straightforward. It's just first name, password, and project. And this is exactly what it will download if you click this button. Is a CSV file. So you put the first name of the student in the first column, you put a password in the second column, and you put what project they're in. You only enter a number here, though. Do not enter the full name of the project. It won't know what to do with that. So all of the projects have numbers, as you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the number that you want to use here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So once you've done all that, you want to save it. Save. Then you're going to come here to click or drop the file. Let's see if it's in my downloads where it's easy. And it's going to load them in. Now, one thing I do recommend is that you make sure that the password is the same for everybody. That just makes life so much easier when you're giving kids their initial login. The passwords do have to be kind of long. I think they're 12 characters. So finding a good one is important, and that can be kind of tricky right off the bat. But just notice that as it's loaded that in there, it's automatically assigned all of those students to the project that I designated. Now, at this point, the student accounts do not exist. I have to come all the way down to the bottom and hit click create to push it through. So when I hit create, now I have a bunch of projects. Now I want you to know, never. Notice that we have a name here, but we have this PS followed by some numbers. Notice that in that template, there is nowhere to enter a student's email address, and that's on purpose. Students will not be using their email addresses their school email addresses to log in to the Planting Science platform. Now, that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it protects their identity, so that's the reason why we do it that way. But the other reason why that's important is because if they lose their password, they cannot use the forgot my password link to find it again because it will send the password recovery email to a dead end email address that we've created on their behalf. So that means that if you as a teacher have to be the one that changes their password for them if they forget what it is. So when you have, like, say, for example, that Annie came to me and said, I have forgotten my password. I can't get logged in. You can come to the screen, you go to projects, go to students, and then click on actions. And you can type anything and type in a password for Annie that the two of you agree on. And then Annie should then be able to use that to log in. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, so the other thing that you can do from this screen, again, I'm here at projects and I've clicked on students. So here's my list of my students. I click this crayon button to change their password. The other thing you can do is you can see who has logged in and who has not. This is helpful, especially if you're teaching middle school, because if there are students who shouldn't be logged in because they have not submitted their parental form yet, you can double check here to make sure that they haven't been logging in like they shouldn't be. The other thing is this export is handy. You can export the student's information as a CSV. So if you need it, to download it to hand off to somebody, or if you want to download it as a PDF, what it will do is create a roster for you that looks like this. And notice that these are tickets and it has their name. It tells them what project they're in, but it gives them their username and does not show the password. The reason why it does not show the password is because ideally, in theory, you're giving the whole class the same password that when they log in, they'll be prompted to change that password to something they can remember. They should write their new password here in the blank spot. And that way they can keep this with them and that'll help them remember how to log in. But the username they're going to use is the PS and the number. It isn't going to be their first name. It is not going to be their school email address. It is this unique number with the letters PS in front of it. So if you have students that come to you and say they're having trouble logging on, first check and make sure that they're using that number. That's number one. If they are trying their password and their password's not working, of course, remind them that it is case sensitive. You can always come back to this page and reset it together so that they'll know what their password's supposed to be. And that's that. So now if we go to our project page, go to the project list, you'll notice that my project teams are much bigger now. And if I click on this one, You can see that not only do I have my liaison, my mentor, my teacher, and the staff, but now I have students assigned accordingly. And they are not in the group, but they are members of the project. And that's that. So, if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at psteam@plantingscience.org. Um, this is, kind of the trickiest part of it. Once this is done and kids are able to log in, it's pretty smooth sailing. So don't hesitate to reach out with questions if you stumble along the way. We have heard it before. We are happy to help. Have a great day.